And everyone has their place and their season in their life. Some people it's being right where they are, whether it's back in their hometown or whatever. And other people it's like, you know what, I'm going to be on the other side of the planet. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode. So pumped to have Jason Cohen here, a man with many talents, and I know there's going to be a lot of great gems coming out of this. So the whole purpose of today is to, one, learn a little bit of his journey, and he's got a lot of different things that he's done in his lifetime. We were speaking before we came on camera here, and of course, there's a Jersey connection. Gotta love that, Jersey Shore. But Jason, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So, Jersey, were you? And we're gonna have to kind of go into the wrestling standpoint because he wrestled growing up. I wrestled growing up.
Oh, no kidding.
But before we get into that, were you born in Jersey?
I was born in Jersey.
Yeah.
Yep. I was born in Galloway, actually.
Oh, Galloway. Okay,
Galloway.
yeah, South. Yeah.
So I was raised in Egg Harbor Township.
I know Egg Harbor. Yeah.
And then moved to Cherry Hill for a year. Came back. Lived in Atlantic City for a bit. Lived the rest of my days in Egg Harbor Township until I, moved away for college, essentially.
Okay. And where'd you go to school?
I went to Ursinus College.
Ursinus, yeah. Okay.
And then in high school, I went to Egg Harbor Township and Holy Spirit. So I kind of did both.
All right.
Got the Catholic school education, bounced back to public.
Okay. So now, when you were growing up, did you ever think you were going to kind of end up where you are now? Or like some people are like, you talk to them, they're like, I knew I was going to be this thing. And then other people are like, nah, I had no idea. If you would have told me that when I was like 17, I would have been like, yeah, you're crazy. So how was it for you? Did you see this path for yourself?
So growing up, I'm actually an identical twin. And my mom as a kid always kind of had a passion for us to get into film.
Okay.
And she put us into plays really young. And growing up, I always had a sense that I really liked the film industry. I have a writer in my family. Me and my twin were always pretty creative. She would have us on the baseball field and we're like looking at the butterflies. So we're always pretty creative kids. And after, I hit high school, I got pretty stuck into the sports realm. Okay. But I always had a high passion for just film and creativity in a sense, like the arts, I'd say.
That's so wild because in high school, most of it's either the art drama, creative kids that are artsy, or the jocks.
Exactly.
So the fact that you're saying you were actually kind of like a blend of both, that's really uncommon.
Yeah, for me, I think I was always, I'm proud to say, I was born like a nerd. I was always pretty into the arts and stuff, but I kind of became a jock, I'd say, just because I was a nerd. I was always a smaller kid. I played football, wasn't big enough.
Yeah.
And me and my brother were so competitive playing hockey. This one coach was like, you guys should wrestle. And we ended up being really good at it. And then through wrestling, I put on some size, I was a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Now I don't really power lift as much as I used to, but for wrestling, we were jacked up.
Yeah.
Me and my twin brother fighting all day in the house and then letting it go all on the wrestling mats. We were just animals. So.
How old were you when you started wrestling?
I started wrestling in, I think, 6th grade. So I was probably around 9 or 10.
Okay.
Not too young.
Yeah.
I always felt like I was late in the sport.
Yeah.
But the one thing I had was grit, and I would wrestle all summer long.
Yeah.
I'll go to every wrestling camp. I met Dan Gable. I wrestled in Iowa, wrestled in Maryland. I went to Fargo freestyle tournaments.
Oh, wow.
So I was doing Greco wrestling. I did everything I could. So
No kidding.
It was addictive.
So there's some people that agree with me on this and some people that don't. As high school sports go, wrestlers are the best athletes.
I'd say wrestlers are the most grittiest athletes.
Yeah.
You could take a wrestler and throw them in any kind of situation, and I feel like they almost always have a will to win.
Yeah.
They just never give up. They always find a way.
The conditioning is out of control.
It's
Most
insane.
people don't know the depth of conditioning for high school wrestling.
Insane.
It's totally insane. And I can imagine now you wrestled in college.
I wrestled in college as well.
And was it even crazier than high school?
It was.
Yeah.
It was because there's a political sense that comes in.
Okay.
It's not as fun. And when you take the fun out of anything, it's just a little bit more this is serious.
Yeah.
And it's the wrestle-offs become more serious. The intensity to become a varsity wrestler becomes more serious. There's a lot of backlining things that come in. You're kind of becoming an adult at this point. You're trying to pay tuition. You're trying to figure out what you want to be when you want to grow up. And I wrestled at a D3 school, but we were so competitive at Ursinus. And our coach was just he was like just a hammer.
Yeah.
And in high school wrestling, you get the newspaper, your front page on the pictures, you get the rankings. It's fun. You get cheerleaders, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But when you go back to school and college, you sit in the big auditorium and it's right to studying.
Yeah.
You're cutting weight all day. It's just like, it's not as fun. You get in that wrestling room, there's tons of guys like wrapped up. You have broken ribs, broken fingers from last season, and you're still expected to perform top level.
Oh yeah, yeah. Cutting weight is something that most humans walking this earth that have never. The most people I know who had to do it was for wrestling. I had to do it for wrestling, but growing up playing football, Pop Warner, there was the older but lighter thing. So there were some times I had to cut weight for playing football. And that is something that I wouldn't wish on anyone, because I remember being wrapped in garbage bags and a sweatsuit, running, and then coming back from this run and going into a sauna. Like, I don't even know if it's legal to do that like today.
I used to be scared doing it sometimes.
Yeah, you like start getting lightheaded and you're like, you couldn't drink anything, and you're like trying to just make it to that scale. So when you progressed from that, and I want to, I say this because I think there's a lot of foundational things, because you've now had an incredible life and career that's still going.
Yeah, right.
Do you think things like wrestling gave you that foundation
100%
to make the success that you have today?
Yeah. When I went from high school to college, I never considered myself to be a smart kid. And I learned like little things from wrestling. Like going into that wrestling mat, you have to believe in yourself so much. And I would constantly tell myself in college, like, I'm not smart. But then for some reason I fell in love with medicine. I think it's like I got hurt, and my dad's best friend was an orthopedic surgeon, visited him in surgery room, and I'm like, this is cool shit. Like, I would love to do this. And, I had a serious talk with him. I gave him some time. I was like, I want to be like a doctor. I wanted to be a physician assistant. And that like hard work ethic translated into me and my studying in college.
Okay.
And that, like, going from like a pre-med, like just a high school jock to a pre-med student was vicious. Like, I sat in the math class, I'm like, what is algebra? Like, and I'm sitting in calculus, I'm like, I got to know algebra to know calculus. Like, oh, this is going to be a lot of work.
Yeah.
So I was just going to the teacher's hours like crazy. And it was that sense of like, if I could teach my body to do this, I can teach my mind to do anything.
Yeah.
And I just sat down and hacked. Like, I would stay up till 4 a.m. Like, if I did whatever I needed to do to get an A. If I had to take Adderall, I would take Adderall. Like, to study and focus, boom, get it done. I mean, I was prescribed it. I hated taking it, but I just did whatever I had to do to pass, and I got the grades to do it. Yeah,
no
it was
kidding.
good.
So that led to what? What was the next progression? Did you get into a program?
So I worked with Rothman. So the doctor I was shadowing, he accepted me to work with them, shadow. I was shadowing a primary care physician and veterinary. I was shadowing the 2 orthopedic surgeons, Dr. Ong and Dr. Roscoe. And I just kind of started to learn more what it was like to actually be a doctor.
Yeah.
And at that same time, I was studying for my MCAT. I took the test. I got an average score. I think it was like a 502. It was like my first time taking it. And then from there, I really sat back and I started applying. That was a whole nother monster. Applications is hard. You have to do the interviews. And I had one application that went through pretty good to a school, PCOM, Philadelphia College of Medicine. It's a DO school. And at that point, I was really thinking, like, do I want to go to school for 10 more years? Like, do I want to do that?
And how old are you at this point?
I was 22, I think. I was 22 or 23. And I was really scratching my head thinking, like, wow, like, I don't know if my character is actually, the word I'm trying to think of is almost like blended with this career.
Yeah, yeah.
So I kind of thought about this. The first time I really thought about that and sat back and said, this whole college degree wasn't a waste, because it built me to who I am, but I don't think it's my path. That's where I said, let me take a step back. Let me take a step back.
Well, it's not only the time, because I was there too. I was in a medical program, and it's also, so for those of you who don't know, there's 4 years undergrad, there's 4 years of medical school. I was in a program that kind of lets you kind of accelerate, cut a year off. But then after that, you have residency. For surgery, it's like 6 years. So it is a long journey.
It's a long journey.
And it's not free. It's an expensive one. So staring down the barrel of that is like you have and I say it's almost like a come to Jesus moment. You're like, all right, is this who I am? Is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? And essentially only maybe start my life in my mid-30s.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and I had that question come to me too. I thought, let me go check out some med schools in Europe. So it gave me an excuse to travel to Europe.
Yeah.
I actually called up my cousin and I'm like, yo, we're going to California. And he was like, I can't miss work for that. I'm like, okay, we're going to Oktoberfest in Germany. You're coming with me. I like just convinced him to come with because I really wanted to visit some schools in Italy.
Yeah.
I thought if I could at least have somebody come with me, it wouldn't be like so hard of a trip.
Yeah.
And we went to Oktoberfest in Italy. I checked out the school. As soon as I stepped in there, I was like, I think it was called like Federico III in Naples, Italy. Because it's free out there. The schooling's free.
Yeah.
And I just kind of really did the math on it to get back to the States to take your steps.
Yes.
It's just still so difficult.
Yeah, you got to take your boards here.
So I was thinking, man, this might not be for me because the tuition is like $500,000, I think, in the States or something like that.
Yeah.
And I just kind of put it together. I was like, by the time I'm like late 30s or, wanting to get married and have kids, I'm going to be in debt still. And what if I don't become like, a surgical, doctor, and maybe I'm not making as much as I kind of put it together. I don't want to say it was like fear-based for me to back out. It was more so like, if I really wanted to do it, money didn't matter.
Yeah.
It was more so like the time and like what I wanted to do with my life. I was like, I want to travel, I want to do different things.
Yeah.
I really want to live my life a little bit differently, right? Like this period of time.
Yeah.
So that's what made me really like reassess and back out.
So that's a tough decision.
It was tough.
What did your family say?
So this is actually really funny. My dad didn't want me to be a doctor. He was
really?
like, yeah. My dad was like
the opposite of most parents.
I know. He was like, I don't think you're gonna like it, Jay. He's like, Dr. Roscoe's my boy. Like, he's different. This guy had a crazy story. He came from Colombia. He lived in, I think he was like from like Medellin, came over here, got linked with Dr. Rothman himself, and boom.
Yeah.
For me, a little bit of a different story. But my dad was like, Jay, I don't think being a doctor is for you. I think you're more of a salesman. Like, he's like, you got like charisma, you got a good personality. My dad's in sales, and he's like, why don't you like try sales? He's like, medical sales, like that'd be great for you. But for a long time, I always wanted to do different things with like the film industry and acting and stuff like that. I still don't really know like what my future career is going to be, but nobody knows what tomorrow's going to be.
Yeah.
So, I mean, from there, I was like, I really wanted to do acting. Like, again, I wanted to pick it up again and go into film. And from there, that's when I, started applying for some things, and some Netflix show hit me up, and that was the next step.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Because we can't just brush past that. So when Netflix reached out to you, did they have something already in place that they were interested in for you? Or were they just, because sometimes some people don't know this, networks sometimes they're just trying to find people. They don't maybe quite have the show that they're like, but they know like, we want this guy, but we don't quite know where we're going to put him, but we're going to put him somewhere. So was that kind of the situation, or did they have the show in place?
That was actually the first time they hit me up.
Okay.
And I was about to fly out. I didn't go. I found out later it was a show called Too Hot to Handle, which was like a huge show.
Huge.
And then it was the second season too, which was like almost a little bit bigger than the first. It was just like the timing, the first one had a good layout for it.
Yeah.
And this show ended up, it had no name. They were just like, you need to bring a family member. I'm like, my twin brother.
There you go.
He said no.
No.
He said no. So I'm like, Justin, come on, I really need you. You're my twin. And he was like, I got a girlfriend. I don't want to go on a dating show. And I'm like, come on, brother. So I called up my cousin. I'm like, hey, we got an interview today. I didn't even tell him what it was. He did it with me. He did the interview.
Is this the same cousin you took to Oktoberfest?
Yeah. He's the man. He's the right-hand man.
He's your guy.
I'm like, yo, Chris. Like, we're calling Chris. So I call Chris up. We do the interview, and we knock it out of the park.
Really?
We knock it out of the park. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, like, we got this far. They call us up. They're like, we're going to France. They fly us out there. That's where the show is going to be filmed, in Nice. Or they flew us out to Nice, and it was supposed to be filmed in Cannes, Super Cannes, France. Sounds like crazy.
Yeah.
So when we get there, the producer says, look, you guys made it this far out of like 40,000 applicants. I'm like, okay. And like, you're not on the show yet. I'm like, oh. Like, I just told all my friends at home that I'm going on a Netflix show. And they're like, yeah, so you're not on the show yet, but like, we don't really want cousins, but you guys are like in like the top realm of the pick. I'm like, okay. And like, we like walked away and we're like, Chris, whatever happens, just smile and wave, whatever. So we do one more interview, knock it out of the park again, and then we're on the show first episode.
Okay, so let me ask you. Let's. What are they asking you during these interviews?
A lot of like relationship questions. I think they want to see like if you're fit for like the TV.
Okay.
If you're gonna start drama, if you're gonna bring like that oomph that they need. Like, why do people watch reality TV? Because there's just characters on there, you know? Like, this kid's a character.
Yeah.
And Chris really brought it. So did I. We just bounced off each other so well. I think we could have our own own TV, like, just on us.
Really?
Yeah, we're friggin' funny. Like, me and him together. So he's a good guy. And, I mean, right now he's filming another show. I can't say what it is, but he's right now.
All right.
He called me, like, yesterday morning. He's giving me little updates and stuff, and I'm like, oh, nice.
So I was gonna say, like, when you told the story about going to check out the school in Italy, you're like, oh, he has work, whatever. What does he do that he's able to do this?
Yeah, he actually quit his job, but he was a bartender at the moment. He was a bartender. Yeah, he literally quit for me, and I was like, look, I kind of like gave it to him. I was like, listen, man, like, we got one life. Let's go travel Europe. When are you gonna say you'll be able to do? Like, when will you be able to do this ever again?
Yeah, never.
Like, we're 20, I think we were 22 at the time.
Yeah.
Let's go see the world. Let's do it. Because you got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
I was like, if you lose your money, I'll pay you back somehow.
Yeah.
We had the best time in our life.
No kidding.
Best time.
So now he's kind of fallen into this.
He fell into it. I brought him with me.
No,
I told him, I was like, trust. And this is the craziest thing. That first Euro trip we went to Nice. And we stopped by this hotel called the Aston. It was beautiful. And we were staying in hostels, like living like cheap dudes, you know, just trying to see the world as cheap as we could. And I'm like, look at that place. I was like, you know, like, because when we went there, I was taking pictures and filming stuff. And I'm like, this would be a good pitch for Netflix. Like, just me and you out here, like, living life in Europe, you know? And he goes, I'm like, look at this place. Like, that would be a lot better to stay in there than our hostel. And to this day, I always tell him this. I have a picture, like, it was like, there's like a checkerboard kind of like tile with these fountains where I took the picture at. And I'm like, you know, one day we're going to stay in a place like that. Netflix is going to pay for us. And the next year that's the hotel they put us up.
No way.
So we're the fucking god.
Wow.
So it was like manifestation at its finest. That was the hotel and I still have the pictures on my phone. It was the hotel that they put us up on when we went to France.
No kidding.
It's crazy.
You know, people don't believe it, and we can go down this rabbit hole, but I am a firm believer that visualization and manifestation is real. And it's almost like you have to pretend as if before it happens in order for it to really happen.
It's like that wrestling thing, that belief thing I was talking about.
Yeah. So I'm friendly with a lot of people involved in the UFC and,
nice.
and fighting. And they were telling me that there were people who lost them, talking to different trainers and coaches. There are people that lose the match
before they even get in
the octagon based on what the other fighter is doing. Conor McGregor was great at it. Everyone knows that, right? And you lost the match mentally. And if you lose the match mentally before you step into that octagon, you pretty much lost.
See it.
Yeah.
You can see it.
You could feel it. And people said that with, you know, McGregor at the Jose Aldo fight, that like he had lost the fight before the fight even began. He got knocked out in a few seconds with one punch. So that visualization of what was, and in fact, I don't know if you ever seen the video. I don't know if you're a UFC guy, but there's a video of Conor training with his coaches.
Okay.
It's like weeks before the fight.
Like mimicking that left.
That left.
Yeah.
And exactly what he was going to do. And then they show it side by side with what he did in the fight, and the movements were exactly the same.
Yeah.
He dodged the punch and threw the left.
Becomes second nature.
It was just like that was it. So when it happens, it's going to happen that way. The universe is going to bring it to you. And I'm a big believer. If you can think it in your mind, you could hold it in your hand.
So true.
You know, and being there is what you stood in that place. You took a picture of the tile.
I did.
And it was in your mind. I remember when I had this car, like I was like, you know, growing up Jersey Shore, and I wanted this BMW, And man, I always thought about this BMW, and I always thought about this BMW, and it was an M5.
Nah.
And I remember I was like, I had no money to like buy it, but I found a dealership. I was like on autotrader.com, and I found a dealership that had one, and I drove to the dealership, and I told the guy, I was like, listen, I don't have the money right now. I'm going to have the money in a few months, which was not the truth. And I said, but
it's good to say that.
I said, listen, I just want to check out the condition of the car. And he's like, you don't want to drive it? I said, no, I just want to check out the condition, make sure the interior is nice and everything. And so he's like, yeah, I'll open it up for you. So I just opened it up, and he just let me sit in it.
Sitting there and
I just held the steering wheel.
Right?
I smelled the leather. And I had that in my mind then. From that point
like,
on,
this is mine.
This is mine. I'm
gonna make this happen.
Yep, I'm gonna drive this car one day. Like you said with that hotel, like you've probably done with other things in your life.
Yeah.
Like this is gonna be me one day. But I needed to. You could look at photos online, but that visceral thing of touching it and smelling that BMW leather, I was like, yeah, this is it. This is it. And within a year, I owned that car. It was in my driveway. You know, so those are the things that, so I tell people all the time, you have to be the person before you actually become that person.
Right.
You have to live like that.
So true.
So you made it there. You're there, and then so what happened? You're not on the show yet, and they're like, oh, we don't know if we want cousins.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what?
So we had a couple more interviews, and Chris and I were just sitting back, and we're like, we just want to know. We want to know if we're on the show, and I'm like, you know, man, they're not going to tell us right away. I was like, I think the best thing that we can do is just sit back, not worry about it. And when we get the next interview, like whatever they say, I was like, I have a feeling that there's going to be like some negative things thrown at us because they probably want to see our reaction.
Yeah.
So they call us down. Chris and I, we sit there. There was like 8 Netflix producers, like top of the top. They're all from the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like 4 and 4, and from my like memory, it felt like there was 4 serious ones, kind of like, and then there was 4 like, kind of.
Yeah.
So I was like, let's just, because when you tell a joke and someone's just sitting there like, it's just like not a good feeling.
Yeah.
But then the other people were like, yeah. So I was kind of like, Chris, whatever happens, just keep going, and we just punched it. And then before we left, we were all laughing, and I even saw the lady writing on the notes, like kind of trying not to laugh, but she was like holding that smirk. So we walked out. I was like, we got it. We have to have got it.
Yeah.
And then next night we get a knock on our door, and they're like, all right, pack up, guys, time to go. I'm like, you're moving in that the villa. Episode 1 starts tomorrow. We were freaking out. Yeah.
And this show was
Dated and Related.
Yeah.
Dated and Related. So it was a good like next step into like the Netflix world.
Yeah.
And just getting out to LA. But Dated and Related is a show about siblings wingmanning each other in a villa in France. And I think the true meaning behind this show is kind of like not so much trying to find love, but being there for your sibling. And that's kind of like what happened this whole experience. Like Chris was there for me no matter what. I was there for him and other circumstances. And like kind of just believing in something to get to the next level. And like that was a good thing on this show. Like behind the scenes, you really don't see it on the show, but it's stressful being on a reality TV show. You're thinking, oh, I might look stupid, this and that. But at the end of the day, if you're just like you put your true self out there, like you have really nothing to worry about. But it can be stressful. And I was like really helping Chris out, and he was helping me out. So it was like a true test of like siblings, I'd say. It was good. It was good.
What is
good show.
Something that most people don't know about being on a reality TV show that would surprise them?
Big think. That's a really good question.
You watched a lot of reality TV, I'm sure, prior to this, right? So what was one thing
that
when you were now on the other side that you were like, oh, wow, it's like this? Like, what was something that like surprised you?
One thing that surprised me is it's not like they have cameras up and it's just like, okay, off you go. If there's a scene that was about to happen, they would kind of like hold those people apart and then kind of set cameras up and then let them go. So it's almost like, this is the best way I could say it. You're a bowling ball and the production team is the guards on the bowling alley.
Yeah.
So you can try to go off course, but they're going to steer you from point A to B no matter what.
Okay.
You might not hit a strike, you could have spare,
Yeah.
but you're going to get to point A to point B.
Okay.
So depending on your energy levels, like that's up to you, but they're going to, if you try to go off course and go to the next like range, they're going to stay this way. So they kind of like teeter you a little bit.
So they have an end goal in sight where they want to take this scene or whatever.
Exactly.
And they kind of help you along that path. Because, you know, when you watch these shows, of course, they're built for drama.
It needs a story.
It needs a story.
It needs an art.
And you can't... I watch very little TV in general, but in the little things I've seen of, like, commercials for and previews for, you know, reality TV, I'm always like, there can't be naturally that much conflict. There has to be a little bit of a flow that directs that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how long were you there?
I was there for, I think, 25 days. In France altogether, we had a quarantine before because it was during COVID times.
Yeah.
So we quarantined for about 20-something days, and then we filmed for 20-something days. Chris and I got eliminated on the 6th episode.
Okay.
But 2 days is one episode, so we had a couple break days, so we were roughly there around like 20-ish days.
Okay.
And then we were sent home.
That was it.
I stayed in Germany a little bit.
Oh, you stayed?
I stayed, yeah. I have family in Germany. My mom's from Germany, so I visited them. Chris went back to Jersey, and then I met him back there, and I was like, whoa, crazy.
That is so wild.
But we waited a whole year for it to come out.
So, okay, so that's the next thing.
Yep, the next thing.
So when it came out, was it how you thought it would? Right. Because for those of you who don't know, when you go on TV and when you there's what happens while you're filming, and then there's what you see post production, and you're like,
that's not what happened.
You're like, wait a second, right? It's so wild. So how was that experience when you a year later? Like what happened?
So they have psychiatrists on set, and the one guy was like, he mentioned to me before I left, he was like, so try to write down what you think happened on each episode from your memory now, because from a year you're going to forget, and also what they put out there is going to be different, so it could like interject your memory. He told me the psychological term for it. I forgot what it was, but essentially I did write down in my notes episode 1, like Jason meets like Cass or whatever, Chris, whatever, all the way down to when we got kicked off. And when I went back and read the notes, I'm like, I knew this is what happened, but this isn't what I'm seeing on TV. So they'll take days from episode 4 or 5 or even reactions and put them between like another thing. Like if I like tried to like, you know, if I got like dodged from a girl and took my reaction from like another day where I was like, oh, and then really I was like, that's whatever. You know what I mean? Like, so they'll like switch it up. Yeah. And then also if the camera's behind you, they can't see your mouth moving, so they'll put in words from something else, which is cool. I don't want to break the magic.
I know it's kind of like behind the scenes of like Netflix reality TV. But listen, anyone who has any kind of sense about them,
it's edited a little bit.
Yeah, of course. So, what led to your elimination? Like what? Like so, what was the premise of the show?
Yeah, so the show was essentially like, you know, you got to find love for your sibling. That's the main premise. So our elimination, I think our characters were essentially the fuckboys.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of what they labeled us. And we're from Jersey, we're spastic, we're fun.
Yeah.
We're going in there starting a party. And you need characters like that. You know, so this is it. If you're on reality TV, you need to be a good guy or a bad guy.
That's it.
Anything in between, NPC.
Yep.
You're just fluff. So like we go in there, we're making noise, and we made our little parts happen. But yeah, we were lickety split after not finding a girlfriend on episode 6.
So you had to find someone for him, and he had to find someone for you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And we kind of had girls, but they got kicked off early. They got kicked off early on.
Oh,
yeah, it was a shame. They were from Texas. They were cool.
Oh, were they?
Yeah, they were cool girls, but they got kicked off.
So what was the thing that jumped off from there? Did that lead to other opportunities for you? Like, what was it?
Oh, from the show in general.
From the show, yeah.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. So from Netflix, originally, I mean, coming out here in LA, it kind of pushed me to really move to LA.
So when did you decide to come out here?
I moved out here March 16, 2022.
Okay.
So, yeah, basically a year ago.
Yeah.
Packed my car up. I was like, Chris, let's get the hell out of here. Drove right across the country.
Your cousin came with you?
Yep.
No kidding.
Yeah,
he wasn't in a relationship or anything?
He was. We both were.
And you both said...
Kicked him to the curb. Yep.
That is hardcore.
I was like, we got dreams, brother.
That is cold blooded.
Yeah.
But I love it. I kind of love it. I kind of love it. So you're just saying we got to live our, we got to do it.
Yeah, I was like, we got to go. I was like, we're young. Like, we didn't get, this is my slogan the whole show.
Yeah.
I was like, we didn't get this far to get this far.
That's right.
So even at this moment, I was like, look, the show didn't come out yet. We didn't get this far to get this far.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, what if the show's a flop? What if it doesn't do good? We got work to do, bro.
Yeah.
Let's get to LA. So we really originally did the whole auditioning and stuff for acting.
Yeah.
From the beginning.
Yeah.
And we jump in the car, we drive across the country, we get here, and LA is just exactly what I thought it would be when I first got here. Just like kind of like, you know, not sunshine and rainbow. It's just like life, you know, smacks you in the mouth.
Yeah.
We're working the servers. We're living in an Airbnb at first. It was tough. But then, you know, our show comes out, we meet some people, get some better jobs, like working on Instagram, getting some like brand deals and stuff. So then, you know, ranked up a little bit after a year, but we're living in like, you know, kind of just like a small ass apartment when we first moved out here. It was tough, but I was like, hey man, we're good.
Yeah. Yeah. And now you're how old at this time?
20, I was 28, 27 when I filmed the show, 28, and now I'm 29. This July, turned 29.
So now what's next for you?
So what's next for me is I'm really going hard with acting.
Yeah.
I really want to take it to the next level. You know, I got a commercial agent now, managers. My main thing that I have been working on with Chris actually is we hired a writer, and we wrote a script about a year and a half ago, which I've been working on. And I really want to get behind the camera just as much as I want to be in front of it. I like to produce stuff like that. And since I was a kid, I was always into acting. But yeah, this film that I'm working on is, I think it's just a great script, and it's kind of like, I think it's relatable to anybody in life. So.
You want to share a little bit of
it?
it?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Basically, it's, you know, a little bit about like my life in a sense, but just like that kind of like layer that hits everybody at some point. Like, what do I do? Do I do point A or point B? And what it's essentially about is this kid, James, who is kind of stuck between going to med school.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to pick a different profession, but the writer that we hired was like, I really like this option.
Yeah.
We all kind of collabed and thought this was the best route or to do film. And he has a friend who passes away in Australia. He goes to visit him. Basically, after he dies, he goes to the funeral. And his sister's there, the friend who passed away, leaves him a camera and is like, hey, you should go like film some things, finish this like quest that this kid was on.
Mm-hmm.
His buddy goes with him, and essentially he's like tugged between going to med school and his dad, who's really pushing it on him, or kind of following his own path and applying to this film festival. And at the end, you know, he has some huge like character arcs. So does his friend, and it is just like an expedition journey and a half.
No kidding.
But towards the end of the story, he learns a lot about himself. So does his friend. They go through some like great character changes, and you know, I don't want to spoil the ending, but there's that tug between like, do I do like the 9 to 5 in life, or do I follow my dreams and take a chance at life because we only got one?
Yeah.
So might as well say fuck it and go for what I love.
That, and you know, so many people deal with that. Like I dealt with that personally with my mom, an Asian mom. Hey, you got to go become a doctor, or else you're gonna be a loser. And I'm like, is that it? The doctor or a loser? Or those the only options? And she was like, yeah, that's it. You know.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of stress. And when I decided to deviate and you know not go into medicine, it was like a really hard thing.
Right.
A lot of people are gripped with that, especially these days, because there's so many opportunities with like social media and different things you can get into, becoming a YouTuber, whatever it might be. There's a lot of people who are like, I think I can do this and not go down that route of a 9 to 5 job and what have you. And you're seeing so many people create pretty lucrative careers out of it. You're like, wow, okay. And it's giving pause to a lot of people, especially young people who are like, yeah, maybe I don't need to like go to college and do the traditional thing. Maybe if I believe in myself enough and I push hard enough, I can create this thing. Not everyone's going to make it, right? Not everyone's going to make it, but at least you could say you did it. You pushed, you tried. I never wanted to be someone where so little known fact, at one point I trained for like 6 months. I was in my early 20s to try to go to an NFL combine.
Nice.
And I had to like pull scams and pull like every card I knew to get to one.
Right.
And you quickly realize that the people who are at these combines are on like another level. And that's why a very small percentage of them end up playing on Sunday, you know, whatever. But if you never went And like you never go, you never get embarrassed, and you're like, okay, I don't belong here. I'm like slowest. I can't jump as high. I can't move as whatever. I can't bench as much. But at least you could say, you know what? I trained. I did whatever I can to make it there.
Yeah.
And I realized once I'm there, I'm not cut out. So I'll never be on the couch at 40 saying, I wonder if I would have tried, I wonder if maybe I could, so you got to do those things, and you'll never regret taking that trip. You'll never regret going there and spending that time, where that's something that's scary for a lot of people who are like, well, I'm not going to go to a foreign country, and what if I don't get picked, whatever. There's all those fears.
Yeah.
But then what if you do?
Yeah.
And what if you do?
It's just one hell of a story.
That's
one hell of a story.
That's so wild. So I hope that like gives people listening and watching a little bit of that push, because that's what this is about. If your ultimate ambition is this, you have to be willing to do some of the scary things along the way that are kind of uncommon to get there. Because if you say, all right, well, this is my ultimate goal here, and along the way you get a couple of things and you're like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do that though. Then,
right.
Like, how bad do you really want it?
How bad do you want it? It's like, that one saying, like, if you want something you never had, you have to do something you never did.
Yeah.
You really got to do something you never did.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so that was it. And I felt like there's a lot of big people that have come out of Jersey.
There is. There really is.
It's like a bizarre amount. There's a bizarre amount, especially in the acting world.
Yeah.
There's a lot of big names that have come out of Jersey, and you hear their stories, and it's all they started in like little small areas, and they were like, they just kind of pushed and they persevered. They didn't listen to a lot of people talking to them. When you were involved in the Netflix thing, did you get a little bit of a bug for the producing from some of the producing you saw of the show?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Just being on set, I mean, like as a kid, like I got to do a little bit of acting and stuff, and just editing in general.
Yeah.
Like I would sit on my computer for days. I'm talking days, and just edit like little scenes, like of like something like if I filmed on the beach, and do like a transition into like a sunset or my brother surfing.
Yeah.
And it was just like it was so much passion for me. It's like art. Like I loved building it. So being on set and seeing these guys hold mics, lighting, gripping, all that, I'm like, oh, let's make a movie.
Yeah.
Yo, let's make a fucking movie.
Yeah.
Like,
so when you say you got this project you're working on, do you envision one day maybe being at that high level of producing like feature film, or are you more in line with producing like shows? Because obviously you have all these platforms now that are coming out with their own generated content, Netflix, Apple, so it's not the big studios anymore.
Right.
So are you more into the made for TV, direct to TV? Are you thinking about big screen? What's your passion?
For me, I like exposing like a great story or change. And if that could be on a big screen or even something like, a broadcast and like a smaller channel, that would be great for me. I think the biggest challenge for me right now is probably having like the proper knowledge on like when I learned about like the business of being a doctor, there's like a business of being a producer. And once I learned that, I'm like, okay, like what's the fastest way to get there?
Okay.
And not so much like the speed is what I'm worried about, but the actual, I guess, essence of being like a producer or a director of film, all that business, all that investment and all the time and money that goes in and out of it. Like there's actually a business behind it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy shit, like that's a lot of other stuff. It's not like just picking up a camera, filming something and good to go.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of like educating that I need to like learn to get to that level. But I thought, what's the best way to start? Let me write a script, hire a writer. We got a management. Now it's actually being looked at by a team in Australia, a production team, my script. Yeah. So we got it out there. I'm super excited about that. But, I always said, like, no matter what happens, I'm going to shake a lot of hands and learn a lot of lessons and take that to the grave. So we'll see what happens next.
Part of the thing I talk about with Ultimate Ambitions is networks.
And
you're in LA, and speak for a little bit about the power of networks that I'm sure you've probably learned being out here, how important that is.
Oh, it's very important. Yeah. So, one of my best friends here is Chase Demore, is actually the reason I'm here right now. Chase he's a good guy. I met him at a Netflix event, and Chase is a really good dude. He doesn't just like become friends with you right away. You know, he's like one of those guys that kind of just like sits back and watches you a little bit. But we just met on separate occasions, and he's just such a stand-up guy. Chase TV, different than Chase in real life.
Oh,
You know, so
okay.
he's got the character, the charisma on TV, but in real life, he's such a down-to-earth guy.
Mhm.
And we just hit it off, became good friends, and he's like, he brought me to his podcast here. I met Carson, and
Mhm.
Carson was like, "Hey, you have a really good personality. Would like to bring you back here,
Yeah.
and you know, meet somebody else for the next podcast." I was like, "Absolutely."
Yeah.
It's just like being in LA is like one of those things. It's like I don't even know the term for it. But you get dropped off and just fly around,
Yeah.
fly.
Yeah.
flourish. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I'm
Flourish.
just being here for this short amount of
Yeah.
time. I'm like, it's a different energy here.
It is,
And it's what I do like is that people understand why people are here. There's an understanding of like people are here to make things happen. People are
Right.
not here to stay in their situation. They're actually here to get out of a situation and progress to the next one. Where I've lived a lot of places where people are just okay with where they're at. You know, I grew up in a small town in Jersey, and great people. But there was a lot of people who they were okay with just being in that
Yeah.
town for the rest of their lives. So I have people I went to high school with that they decided to stay in that town, buy a house in that town, have kids, raise their family, and they're still in, and now their kids are going to the same schools that we went to growing up, and that's it. And they're fine with that, and that's okay, and it's beautiful. They have beautiful lives, beautiful families. But then there's that element of people like me who are like, I gotta get out.
I gotta get out. I'm tired.
I gotta get out of here. I am meant for so much more. I gotta get out of here.
Since I was a kid, I always felt that. I
Yeah.
always felt like I was like, I'm the chosen one to leave.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was like the odd one. Call me weird, but I was like, I need to see the world. I don't know if it was like movies or TV or something, but whatever you felt, I felt the same thing.
Yeah.
I was like, in 10 years, I'm not gonna be here. At 10 school, school reunion in 10 years, I'm not even gonna be here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be in some other state, some other
That's what
country.
I said I'm gonna be in
10-year
another
reunion.
country.
Yeah,
I'll be in another country. And I think my last reunion, I was in Dubai or something when it was happening.
exactly.
And I was like, yeah, that's fine. I'm okay with it. This is my path. And everyone has their place and their season in their life. Some people it's being right where they are. Whether it's back in their hometown or whatever. And other people, it's like, you know what, I'm going to be on the other side of the planet.
Yeah, exactly.
Making things happen and creating my life and creating my future. You've heard it. I've said it. People have said it. The best way to determine your future is to create it.
Exactly.
There's no way. There's no other way. And out here, I'm feeling that's the energy for out here. So now, when you have people that you meet that are probably now with what's happened with you, coming to you and say, you know what, yeah, I think I might want to get into this realm.
Mhm.
If you could now go back 10 years
Okay.
and give advice to you
To me.
10 years ago, based on what you have the production knowledge, now you have some travel knowledge,
Right.
some networking knowledge.
Right.
What's one thing that you wish you would have known 10 years ago if you knew that this was going to be your path?
I would say start TikTok sooner, start Instagram sooner. Just be a little more aggressive. Like, obviously, don't give a shit what people think about you, because at the end of the day, if you're doing good, if you're doing bad, they're gonna judge you no matter what.
Yeah.
Travel more, spend more time with your family, because I never see them anymore.
Yeah.
I miss them.
Yeah. Are they all still in Jersey?
Yeah. I'd say as far as acting, I'd say it's hard for me to find a good acting course out home. I did as many acting things online as possible.
Yeah.
But being close to New York, that would probably be the closest way. And in the media world, there's so much scamming. You have to be so careful with like going to like the right actor. There's a lot of crazy crap that happens in the media world. There's like a lot of these stupid classes where you just waste your money and stuff. So I kind of got really good at picking up on like who's bullshit and who's real.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, network's key, because if you get good advice from good people, you know where to go. Speaking about like, jiu-jitsu, I met Mario Lopez. He's like a good friend of mine. Like we roll jiu-jitsu all the time. He's pretty good at it. He's really good.
He's like a purple belt now.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah.
So I train with him sometimes and help him with his wrestling. He's really good at wrestling too. I think he's like a state champ in Cali. But like, and like I would like ask him for like, hey, what acting class should I go to? And not like a random person, and they're like, oh, I went to this one class, and then they're just not like that good, or they just take your money or something.
Yeah.
So I would tell myself, definitely pick your advices from the right people,
Yeah.
and just do your research. Read as much as you can online. Read as
Yeah.
much as you can, and audition. Never give up.
Yeah.
Get 1,000 no's, you get one yes.
That's it. And the one yes could be it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when I was in New York City, I was going on castings for different things, and man, it was unbelievable. Like how many no's, and like that was the difference. I didn't realize it, and it was a learning situation for me because I was going on castings for modeling, and I got one job right out of the gate. It was for Ralph Lauren Polo, and I was like, wow, that was easy. And then after that, I got like 50 no's, and I was like, oh man, and like I wanted to quit. And I remember the day I walked into the modeling agency and I said, I'm done. Like I was like, I'm done. My agent was like, go to one more. Go to one more. There's one tomorrow. Go to one more. Just give me one more. And I'm like, I've been to like 100 of these and I haven't had anything, whatever. And I went to one more, and that next one, the next day, was for Abercrombie and Fitch, and I got it.
Nice.
So a lot of it is just like the people who make it, or the people who just go one more.
Yup.
The people who just say, you know what, I'm going to go one more day. I'm going to keep going for, another month. I'm going to stay here for another week and see, and because it's easy when it doesn't work out short term. You're like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to my regular life. I'm going to, just go back to Jersey, my hometown, and just find a job, and it'll be cool and whatever. And it's like, it's the people who are like, no, I'm going to just keep pushing. I'm going to keep pushing. And that changed my world. When that time when I was in New York City, it completely changed my life.
Cool.
And then I was like, and that led to another one, and that led to another one. Next thing you know, I was on, I went to from meeting those people and networking,
Yeah.
I ended up at an audition for United Colors of Benetton, and I got that campaign, and I ended up on a billboard in Times Square and in Milan and in
It's like
Paris.
a chain.
And it was like 100-foot picture of my face, and I'm like, if I had given up that day,
Snowball effect.
yeah, right, it would, like, nothing would have happened.
Yeah.
So, and it was just all that little bit of perseverance, like, okay, yeah, no, this is what, and it was like you were determined.
Right.
You're determined, and you have that in your mind, like, yeah, I'm not settling for this.
Yeah, like I can never go back home and be happy.
Yeah, yeah,
Can't do it. It just won't happen.
Yeah.
There's no way.
yeah.
There's just no way.
So I want to end on this. What's your brother doing?
My twin brother, is working in business right now.
Mhm.
Just kind of, he's in New Jersey, and so my brother's a really good musician, but it's like that little bit of perseverance that I think I need to like share with him.
Yeah.
I think once he gets that, he could be anything he
Are
wants.
you identical twins?
We're identical twins.
You're identical
Yeah.
twins. So you're like going this path of like
Yeah.
living the dream,
Yeah.
and he's just working a regular job,
Yeah,
right?
in New Jersey.
But you think he has the potential?
He has it more than me.
Really?
He does. He's so smart. He's so talented. He's just, I feel like right when he hits that, like, a little bit of pressure,
Mm-hmm.
it just starts to crack a little bit.
Mm.
I'm like, come on, man. Once you get through that one time, it's just easier and easier and easier.
Yeah.
So, but he's so close, and I see like a lot of success in his like future. I just think I'm trying to like have him come out here. And like last time he visited, I was in the process of moving.
Yeah.
It was a little like challenging, but this time he comes and visits me. I think he'll see more things like clearly.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's what you got to push.
Yeah.
You got to push for greater. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah, that's amazing. Jason, man, thank you so much. This was amazing.
Yeah.
I know we have like 9 other topics I want to go into:
for
jiu-jitsu,
sure.
wrestling,
Yeah,
things like
yeah.
that. Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
I got a crazy situation going to dinner with Mike. The situation.
Oh no way.
Yeah. It involved his like Lamborghini parked in like a handicap spot. And the
No
police
way.
came. It was weird.
Oh my god.
But yeah, so
Mike the situation.
Mike the situation. But we'll definitely got to do a part 2, man.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So let everyone know where they can find you and follow you and follow your journey.
Yeah, for sure. You can find me on Instagram, Jason Cohen Official, and yeah, I mean I think it's the best spot to follow me.
Yeah. How are you on TikTok? Are you doing the
My
TikTok?
TikTok's okay. It's
Yeah.
not so much like I'd say like professional. It's more so like just TikTok stuff.
Just silly stuff.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. Jason Cohen Official. If you want to check it out.
Awesome. Well, we'll
Yeah.
put all the links below. Jason, thank you again, and definitely got to get back for part 2 of this.
Oh,
we
absolutely.
got like 9 other topics to talk
Yeah,
about.
for sure.
All right. Thanks everyone
My
for watching.
pleasure.
Make sure you check out the links, follow Jason, and I'll see you next time.